What's going on, beautiful people? Today we're going to take a look at some chart setups. Now, this isn't a recommendation to buy or sell any of the stocks mentioned today. All I'm doing is going through, shopping through some chart setups. I own a couple of these stocks. I'll probably be going through about 10 of them. So this is really just me shopping for opportunities. It's going to be a mix of a couple of micro caps, mostly mid caps, and a couple of larger caps. So a little bit of everything for everyone. We're going to start off with RMD ResMed, and what we have here is a nice break of horizontal on decent volumes. There's been a big swing up. We can see based on earnings report, there was a nice gap up, a swing up, and I'd be looking at roughly, depends on what it opens up tomorrow, if there's not another gap up. Otherwise, the stop loss somewhere underneath this gap, perhaps around 28, just under 28.50, targeting around 31.40 for the take profit target. So that'll be a nice little short swing setup that I've got my eye on for tomorrow. LEP, this is also a beautiful setup that I'll be looking at for tomorrow. Unfortunately, I couldn't catch it today. But what we have here is a nice little horizontal setup. It's a little bit more of a range, but looking at about $4.73 to $4.70 as a take profit target range. So that's a nice little 38.2 bounce should it swing to the upside. And this horizontal happens to also be a 23.6 horizontal as well. So a bit of resistance. So we've got a nice little target here. I'd be looking for a risk to reward of about 2 to 1 there. We've got SLK here, which is C-Link. Now, I don't have any targets for this one personally. This doesn't take my interest, but you know, it might be up your alley. If you want to follow the money, then this might be a stock you could be interested in. So it broke out of a nice horizontal on growing volumes. So it looks quite nice on the charts. I personally don't have any sort of take profit targets or stop loss targets. It's, you know, follow the money if you wish. Otherwise, it's not a personal favorite of mine out of this list. We've got CNW, which is Cromwell Property Group. Now, this one's also an interesting one to keep an eye on. It sort of broke a weak horizontal and also a 38.2. You can see it's acting as a bit of resistance, and it's broken out nicely. And it's got that little pattern that I like, where it's just it's like a rising bull flag. It's very rare to find. It breaks to the upside, and it's hitting kind of a horizontal here, closing at a strong candle here at 95 cents. I'd be looking at somewhere around $1.01 roughly to take profits, so 50% pullback. I haven't really charted this one much. I kind of just spotted the breakout and it was fascinating to see. So there's also a level of resistance here, roughly at 97.5 cents. So this one doesn't take my fancy too much. It looks nice, the risk to reward, but I'm not quite sure. You know, the amount of capital required to make a decent profit on this one is, you know, you're going to be looking at, I'd be looking at 5% over perhaps a week or two, so it doesn't really take my fancy, this one. But it's worth noting that there's a nice little chart setup. Perhaps if, you know, for larger positions, you know, something like 50 grand, 100 grand or something, this would be a relatively safer play for less reward, of course. So that'd be an interesting kind of trade for a much larger capital position. RDC, now this one is also interesting, but I wouldn't want to ride this breakout. What I would be looking for is a swing back down to this support level here. That would be a nice sort of entry back at maybe just over $1, maybe $1.01, $1.50 would be nice. And targeting about anywhere from 12 to 14 cents. So bringing up this horizontal here. Yeah, that's $1.10 to $1.13 roughly. That's sort of nice, real tight range. So going back to pre-COVID levels, basically. So that looks like a really nice setup, and I'd be looking for maybe a 4 to 1 risk to reward setup for that one. We got REA, and this one's interesting. It's broken a major trend level, major resistance level. This bottom yellow dotted line, and it's come to retest. Rather, firstly test this level here. So it wouldn't surprise me if what we saw was a hit at 129.15 roughly, and a pullback down, and then a carry on to the upside. That'd be my expectation. I wouldn't want to buy into this breakout unless, you know, holding for a much longer term, but I'd be looking for really hitting this target here and selling at that target there. So there's not much room there, but it'll be a nice little swing play. We've got NEW. This one's on my watch list. Again, not too interested in buying the top here. I'd be looking for a break into a retest, and that's sort of the area I'd be looking at buying, is confirmation first that it is breaking to the upside, and a target around this level here. And look, it's not necessarily $1.06.5. It could get there tomorrow, you know, $1.10. So it's all about this trend line as the target, and maybe 1 pip below just to guarantee that sort of exit, or rather increase the likelihood of getting out of that position. And really the stop loss here would be somewhere, it'd be relatively tight, somewhere maybe 96.5. So once it breaks out, the risk to reward there is what, 4 pips to the downside, and what's that, 97, 98, and yeah, so 7, 8, 9 pips to the upside. So a good risk to reward on that one there. MLD, Maca Limited. I'm not sure what this stock even is, but again, it's got a nice looking setup. It has potential. It's broken out. Not broken out. Well, it's broken out of a bit of a trend there, but it's swinging to the upside, and it's doing so on decent volumes there. This isn't my favorite sort of chart to look at. Wouldn't surprise me if it hit this this level here at 90 or 89.5, came back down a little bit, and then tried to break out again. So that's what I'd be looking for on this chart setup here. Or alternatively, you know, if it does break to the upside, then come back, retest, and again, that would be my sort of entry there. So I don't like buying the breakout when it actually occurs on the first candle, as you've probably just noticed. Here, this is probably one situation where I'd happily buy the breakout, is because it's just occurring here at 323, 322. This is a nice sort of longer term play. It's broken past COVID highs, pre-COVID highs. Swinging to the upside, and it's breaking on decent volumes as well. So this would be a nice little swing play. I haven't really got a take profit target. It really comes down to volume and momentum for this one. So I'll keep an eye out on what happens tomorrow. I would have a very tight stop on this as well. I wouldn't be too interested in seeing it break this horizontal. So anything below 318, so probably 316, 315. Keep it tight. As long as I have a one-to-one risk to reward, it doesn't bother me at all. As you can tell, most of the stocks we looked at were property, and this is why property is doing so well. We've got XPJ, which is the index. I believe this is the property index. And it's got a nice little breakout, so that's kind of what's trending as of late. We've got DDR here, another nice little setup. We got a much longer time frame that got broken out of, and as you can see, it looked like a bit of a bull trap at first when it broke out the first time. So it broke out here, created a new high, swung back down, but it didn't quite go up. It dipped even further. So this is quite interesting how it broke down and is now retesting a much shorter time frame. In fact, it's kind of shooting above it, and it closed on a really strong candle on really good volumes. So this is one that I would definitely keep on a watch list to find out if the continuation is on for tomorrow. And again, I'd have a stop loss. I wouldn't want something like this to just dip back down and then carry on. That would just be a little bit wonky. I wouldn't be after to see that kind of pattern on the chart. Now, I certainly wouldn't want to see it come back down here and then rally. So I'd really keep it, I personally would keep it tight, perhaps below this horizontal, a few pips below the horizontal, and target for a much bigger upswing on hopefully higher volumes as well. FFG, this is one that I tweeted about today. I bought in at 4.2, so it's just a nice 1 hour chart on Fatfish Group. It's a little spec stock, so about $40 million, and it's got a nice little breakout occurring. Volumes are increasing towards the end of the day. It closed on a relatively nice candle on the daily. It looks a bit funny, but this does look like the start of a potential breakout. It'd be nice to see. We've got, of course, rising volumes. These aren't fantastic volumes. I would ideally want something more like this at least. But whatever, I bought in, it looked good, and I'll see how it goes tomorrow. And if it does well, then I might add on to the position. There's some targets here. I have at least, what I'm hoping to see is 4.8 to be tested, and perhaps a pullback down to maybe 4.4 before breaking out. So that's kind of the plan, is up, down, and swing back up. Or look, just a straight moonshot. I mean, hey, look, I'd be up for that too.